The flame bends like a supplicant in the wind. Tallow weeps down the side of a copper sconce, bleeding onto the stone wall like waxen tears. In the cold room below the chapel, where the walls sweat mildew and the ceiling hangs low with soot, the bone-sore whispers a psalm he does not believe in. He cannot remember all the words. Only the shape of them, sharp at the beginning, soft at the end, like a scream surrendering into silence. The saw hangs on the wall like a relic. Its iron teeth are dull from use, stained brown with the sins of flesh. He lifts it slowly, reverently, as though drawing a sword not to kill, but to release. His apprentice, a boy no older than 15, stares blankly, jaw clenched, knuckles white as he grips the shoulders of the patient writhing beneath them. The man is sweating through his tunic. Fever has hollowed out his face, turned his skin to parchment stretched thin over a dying fire. His leg, what remains of it, is wrapped in moss, still damp, stinking of riverbed and rot. Outside, the dogs bark again, then howl. It is not the howl of hunger, but of something older, something that remembers what human blood smells like on the snow. The sawer speaks finally, not to the patient, not to the boy, but to something above them, or perhaps beneath. Domini misere nobis, Lord, have mercy on us. He says it as he plants his boot on the man's thigh to keep it still. The scream comes before the blade touches skin. The body remembers pain before the mind does. He cuts fast. Not to be kind, kindness does not belong here, but because slowness is cruelty, and cruelty slows the hand. The saw makes a sound like dry branches breaking in a hearth. The apprentice turns away, gagging, but holds firm. His job is not to feel, is to hold. To anchor. The man on the table bites down on a strap of boiled leather soaked in vinegar. His eyes roll back. He's dreaming of rivers, of horses, of warmth. He will not wake again. But the surgeon finishes the cut as always, completes the ritual. When the leg drops into the bucket, the sound it makes is dull and wet. The room smells of iron and piss. The apprentice weeps silently as he ties the bandages. The moss is changed, fresh from the forest behind the abbey. It will not help, but it gives them something to do. The man dies before nightfall. His lips turn purple. His breath stops mid-shudder. There's no last words, only silence, folding into itself. The bone sawer does not look away. It takes the saw, blood still slick on its teeth, and sharpens it on the whetstone in the corner. Each drag of metal hums like a chant. He sharpens not because there is more hope, but because there is more waiting. The saw does not ask why, neither does he. Later, in the cold dark of early evening, they carry the body to the chapel steps. There will be no mass. The priest no longer prays for the infected, only blesses the tools and burns the bedding. The church door stays closed. The cathedral bell rings once, not for the man, not for his soul, but for the silence that must follow. In the village square, people turn toward the sound. They listen not in grief, but calculation. How many dead? This week, how close now? Children stop playing. Women tighten their shawls. A farmer crosses himself with a hand that shakes. Inside the bone sawer's chamber, the boy washes the saw in vinegar and snow. His hands are red. It's not from the cold, but from what cannot be washed away. The surgeon eats nothing that night. Chews cloves to silence the stench in his throat. He sits by the fire, watching the logs collapse in on themselves. He remembers when he first learned the prayer. Not in Latin, but in screams. He was an apprentice once, holding a stranger's arms as they were cut open to let the sickness bleed. They said it was divine. That pain drove out the demons. But all he saw leave was hope. They call him a healer now, a necessary man. Even the priest nods when they pass in the street, but no one meets his eyes, because everyone knows he does not heal, he merely helps. The bodies surrender. Some nights, when the wind rattles the shutters and the fog thickens around the chapel like wool soaked in sweat, he dreams of the ones who did not scream, the silent ones, the children, the soldiers, the mothers who locked eyes with him as if to say, "Finish it." He never forgets those faces. He sharpens the saw for them. Tomorrow another will come, a baker with a blackened foot, a priest's niece, with swollen glands. A child who won't stop coughing, and he will light the tallow, whisper the words, lift the saw, not to heal, but to bear witness. This is not mercy. It is function. It is the thin line between suffering and surrender. And so he sharpens, and the bell tolls. Outside, the dogs bark again. But it is different now. A new scent rides the snow. Somewhere in the valley below. The herb wife gathers her basket, whispering to the roots in the earth. She will not use saws. She will not light candles in chapels. But her potions taste of ash and honey, and she knows which plants kill and which only pretend. Tomorrow, someone will knock at her door. Someone who fears the surgeon more than the sickness. The bell echoes into the hills. The saw glints in the firelight, and the boy, still weeping, does not know yet. He will one day whisper the same prayer, and the saw will pass to his hand. The candle in the infirmary flickers, not from wind, but from breath. Shallow, ragged, borrowed breath clinging to the lungs of a child who should not still be alive. She lies like folded parchment on the straw-stuffed mattress, her body curled around a pain too large to hold. Her skin is pale as cream left out in frost, her lips chapped and blue. The sisters say it is fever. But the girl's mother has seen it before in a cousin buried in lime, in a brother whose breath stopped during prayer. This is not fever. This is a quiet undoing. In the apothecary's chamber, the nun practitioner hums under her breath. Not a song, a rhythm. The ancient timing of infusion and death. She grinds dried yarrow with a pestle worn smooth by years of prayers and plague. Beside her, a stoppered vial of lamb's blood waits. Fresh, still warm. Was taken at dawn from a stillborn left at the convent door. A mercy, they'd said. Aid. And perhaps it was the leeches' twist in their glass jar, black and sleek and eager. They sense the warmth, remember the taste. The nun opens the jar with trembling fingers, not from fear, but from reverence. In these creatures, there is ancient medicine, an ancient madness, in a time before texts, before church sanctioned. Cures, before Latin filled the mouth of every would-be doctor. Bloodletting was gospel. The four humors must remain in balance. Blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. Imbalance means illness. Too much blood, fever, too little, collapse. And so the leech was made priest, and the skin a confessional. The girl's wrist is thin as a reed. The nun ties a ribbon of raw wool above the elbow and pricks the skin. With a silver pin, the first leech does not hesitate. It latches, pulsing softly. The girl moans in her sleep. The nun offers no comfort. She only watches the dark body swell with borrowed life. In the next room, the girl's mother kneels on the stone floor, hands pressed flat against a virgin carved from dying oak. She murmurs names, saints of fevers, saints of lungs, saints of lost children. She does not weep. She'll be our. Outside, snow gathers in the cloister arches. The bell tower looms above the convent like a question no one dares ask. No one has died here in 3 days. A miracle, they whisper. But in the cellar beneath the herbarium, the jars tell a different story. Honey-soaked eyes, sliced frog bellies, boiled bones, worms suspended in vinegar. Every tincture is a secret. Every secret is paid for in blood. The nun returns to the bedside with a cup of warm milk. To it, she adds a single drop of lamb's blood and 2 drops of opium syrup. She stirs with a carved willow spoon, the handle shaped like a fish. A silent symbol of mercy, she lifts the girl's head gently and pours the mixture past cracked lips. The child swallows, barely. The breath stirs, shallow but rhythmic. The nun leans close to listen, to believe, to hope. But hope is not medicine, it is distraction. So she closes the girl's eyes with 2 fingers and speaks the words, Dominus, illuminatio me, the Lord is my light. But the room is still so dark. Later, by firelight, the nun writes in her ledger, leech water applied, lamb's blood administered, sleep shallow, fever reduced. It is a lie. but one softened by ritual. Outside, the townsfolk gather at the convent gate. A man with boils along his spine, a woman coughing black phlegm into her apron, a child with hands curled like parchment. They clutch coin, offer eggs, swear fealty. Whatever it takes, but not all may enter. 2 novices step forward with wooden staffs. They read the names aloud, cross-check with the priest's scroll. Only 3 admitted today. The others turn away, hollow-eyed and limping mercy, like leeches. Has limits. That night, the nun dreams of water, deep black, still. She sees her reflection ripple, break, disappear. When she wakes, her hands are stained, though she scrubbed them clean. She walks to the infirmary. The child still breathes. The leeches are full. One has burst. Others float in the jar like saints without halos. She sits beside the girl and begins her vigil, not of prayer, of presence. Hours pass. Snow thickens. The wind howls through the cracks in the stone, and then, just before dawn, the child speaks. A single word. Warm. The nun gasps. It is enough. She pulls the blankets tighter around the girl and feeds her a sip of broth, made with onion, garlic, and something else, bitter and red. A recipe from the old nun, the one who died last winter with dried herbs. Still clutched in her palm, there is no cure, only endurance. Only waiting. The bell tolls again. Once, then again. 2 lives lost overnight, but not this one. The nun smiles, softly. To herself, outside, the snow continues to fall. And somewhere, beyond the trees, in the frost-draped hollows of the valley, the herb wife stirs in her sleep for tomorrow. They will come to her. They will say the convent has grown quiet, that the child lived. The sisters bleed lambs now, not sinners, and she will know it means one thing: the blood is thinning, the saw is resting, but not for long. Before the sun rises, before the bells stir in the convent tower, she is all ready. In the woods, barefoot, silent, a ghost among frostbitten roots and sleeping birds, the herb wife does not pray. She listens. To the crunch of ice beneath her heel, the whisper of the elder trees, the hush of something old in the soil that the priests have long forgotten. Her fingers trail through brittle nettle and dead bramble, searching not for what lives, but what remembers. She finds a patch of foxglove half frozen under fallen leaves, purple petals curled like clenched fists. She hums, low and rough, as she gathers them into her apron. Every flower is a blade, every leaf a sentence. They call her healer, which, widow. They call her in the dark, when the doctor won't come. She does not knock. She appears. The village fears her in the same breath that begs her. Children are told not to look into her eyes. The left is clouded white like stormed milk, the right sharp as flint, but that they do look. Because in a world so cold and cruel, she smells of rosemary and smoke and something ancient that does not. Lie her cottage leans into the hill, roof hunched like shoulders beneath a sorrow. Smoke curls from the chimney, thick with lavender and burnt sage. Inside, shelves sag with dried roots, skins, bones, a hare's foot wrapped in red string, a bottle filled with something yellow and thick that moves when no one touches it. Today, they bring her a baby. Its heart flutters wrong, too fast, too loud, too soon. The mother won't meet her eyes. I went to the convent, she whispers. They said she's too small, that the Lord must decide. The herb wife nods. She has heard that sentence before. The Lord decides, and the Lord is cruel. She takes the child into her arms. The skin is thin as rice paper, the breath shallow. Rapid, she does not speak. She reaches for a dark jar, foxglove, and boiled toad, steeped 3 nights in rainwater. She adds a single drop to goat's milk. No more. Too much and she stops, she says. Too little and she fades. The mother weeps. The herb wife ignores her. She dips a finger into the mixture and places it on the baby's tongue. The room is quiet. Even the fire stills. Outside, the trees groan. They will wait. On the far wall, Tapestry stitched with animal hair tells a story. A wolf pierced by 7 arrows, a girl with no mouth, a son bleeding into the sea. Old symbols. Older than Latin? Older than God? The herb wife knows what the priest forgets, that before mercy there was barter. And blood always answers. The baby sleeps. The mother dares to hope. You'll stay the night, the herb wife says. Not as a question. She lights a candle of bay and tallow, places it in the window, a sign, so that no man, no priest, no soldier might interrupt what must not be disturbed. Later, as the child rests, the mother asks, will she live? The herb wife does not answer. Instead, she speaks of the woods. There's a root, she says, that grows only where bones have rotted. It smells like copper and sings when boiled. I found it once beneath the gallows. I brewed it for a boy with no tongue. He spoke the next day, not words, but screams. The mother flinches. This work, the herb wife murmurs, is not clean. It is not holy, but it listens. She moves to the hearth, stirs a pot of something thick and brown. A scent fills. The room molasses, ash, marrow. She hums again. The same tune from the woods. The girl's breathing slows. Not dangerously, peacefully, the herb wife smiles. In the night, she walks outside to bury the leftover foxglove. She does not keep poison once its use is spent. The earth will take it back. She kneels in the frost and whispers a name. No one else. Hears the trees lean in. At dawn, the baby wakes. She does not cry. She looks, and the herb wife nods. She'll live. The mother falls to her knees, kisses the old woman's feet. But the herb wife pulls her up. No worship. She snaps. I'm no saint. Only a memory with a mouth. The mother offers coins. The herb wife shakes her head. Bring me the next child before the fever starts. Bring me his name, not his symptoms. Bring me the truth, not a prayer. She sends them. Off with herbs wrapped in linen, talisman of crow feather and a PPLOD. The cottage empties, but she is never alone. In the rafters, owls perch. In the walls, spiders spin. And in the hollow of her chest, something old beats slowly, a rhythm that predates mercy. She sits at her table, carving a new charm into bone. Not for protection, for remembrance, because they will forget. They forget they will come with torches. She has seen it before. The bishop will send letters. The villagers will whisper. The church will tremble at what it cannot name, and when they come, she will not beg. She will not burn. She will vanish in two. The woods, barefoot and humming, and the roots will welcome her. And the foxglove will bloom red. But not yet. Tonight she boils bark and prepares a salve for a man with a split tongue. She sings into the steam. Outside, the wind howls. And far off in the convent tower, the bell tolls again. But this time, she does not flinch, because she knows the next child is already on their way. Before the sun, before the frost releases its grip on the thatched roofs, before the chickens rustle and the priests stir, they come. They come with swollen joints and yellow eyes, with skin like parchment and dreams clogged by fever. They come barefoot, hunched, whispering as they walk, as though illness might hear them and tighten its grip. In the center of the village, the bloodletting table waits. It is old, its legs splintered, stained with years of supplication. No clean linen, no sacred rite. Only a brass bowl and the blade. The physician stands cloaked in crimson wool, shoulders heavy with frost. He is not a holy man, though some bow. As they approach, he holds no scripture. Only a scalpel, curved like a serpent's tooth. His hands do not tremble. He has cut fathers and daughters, abbots and beggars. He does not remember their names. Behind him, his apprentice lights the lantern, a warm blur in the morning gloom. The fog has not yet lifted. It clings to the village like a fever dream, the kind no prayer can chase away. One by one, they kneel first. A shepherd, jaw clenched, holding out a hand thick with cold and sin. The physician wraps a strip of cloth around the upper arm, tight, until the veins rise like blue worms. He pricks with precision. Blood flows thick, slow, dark, It drips into the brass bowl. Steam rises from the heat of it. The shepherd does not cry. Stares ahead, past the chimney smoke and the chickens scratching at frozen mud. His eyes do not blink. Only when the cloth is unbound does he speak. Lighter now. It is not truth. It is ritual. Next, a mother with one eye clouded white, the other filled with desperation. Her son died last winter of too much black bile, the priest said. She believes she carries the same. She holds out her wrist, trembling. The physician pierces the skin. Her blood is thin, almost pink. It pools in the bowl beside the shepherds, swirling like wine and water at a false communion. The wind moans low through the alley. Somewhere, a dog barks, then falls silent. Behind them, the crowd grows. Sick men with rags tied around their throats. Children coughing into the folds of their mothers' skirts. Old women who have stopped speaking, who only hum. They all wait. Bloodletting is no cure. They know this. But it is something to do. And in a world where death chooses at random, doing something feels like power. The bowl is emptied, dumped into the earth near the chapel wall, where the moss grows thickest, where the rats dig, where last month's leavings still stay in the ground. The physician sharpens his blade on a whetstone, the scrape echoing down the silent street. Not because it dulls, but because ritual demands a reset. The boy brings water, boiled, cooled, slightly yellow. He wipes down the brass bowl and returns it with reverence. No words are spoken. Words here feel wasteful. Next, a girl no older than 10, brought by her brother. She is pale, her lips cracked, her breath shallow. She won't speak. Her eyes drift upward, watching smoke curl into the sky. The physician pauses. She is too weak, but the brother insists. She'll be better after, he pleads. She's just got too much blood. The physician nods softly. He presses the blade to her arm. Just a drop. It's just enough to satisfy the old belief. The blood runs thin. It's almost clear. The physician wipes his hands on his apron and whispers something, not to her, but to the sky. A name, maybe. A warning. The girl does not move, but she breathes. He sends them home with a poultice of mustard seed and dried mint. It will do nothing. But it smells like effort. Behind him, the apprentice looks pale. You've seen worse. The physician says. The boy nods. He has, but worse never grows easier. The sun has not yet risen. But the light changes, gray fading into something golden. Not warmth, not promise, just a shift. Another man kneels, then a woman, more blood in. The bowl, more silence. Then a break. A man collapses, mid-cut, not from blood loss. From fear, the weight of watching his own lifeblood feed the frost, the apprentice rushes to lift him. The physician steps back. He has seen this before, body trying to leave before the soul is ready. They lay the man against the chapel wall, his breath shallow. Someone gives him snow to chew, does not speak again. The physician finishes the work. The final cut of the morning. A baker with boils. She smiles as she bleeds, as if giving something back to the earth that has taken so much, when the last one leaves. The physician stands alone beside the bowl. It is half full. Dark, viscous, still warm. He kneels, not to pray, but to feel the heat. Rise, to remind himself what still lives. He pours the blood onto the chapel stones. The red spreads across gray. A sunburst. A warning in the distance, the bell tolls. Not for death, not today, just the hour. But in the physician's chest, something tightens because he knows the blood will return. Always he turns to the apprentice. Clean the tools. The boy hesitates, then obeys. The physician walks toward the river, hands crimson, eyes hollow. Behind him, the village begins to stir, not with healing, but with the illusion of it. And beneath the frost, something waits, because tomorrow the swelling will return, the lungs will rattle, the children will cough, and the bowl will fill again. But for now, only the echo of a blade. And the hush of blood cooling in the dirt, the midwife stands barefoot in the dirt, her hands caked with soot and salt. the smell of burnt herbs curling around her like a second skin. In the village square, a woman writhes beneath a linen sheet, her belly hard with fever, eyes glazed like iced glass. The villagers call it the fire sickness, a red rash that creeps up from the chest, blistering the skin, then turning inward, devouring breath and voice. Some say it's punishment. Others say it's the devil hiding in blood. The midwife says nothing. She knows silence is safer than certainty. She crushes dried henbane between her palms, whispering old words in a tongue not heard since the last good harvest. Smoke rises from a blackened bowl juniper, resin, and ash. The woman beneath the cloth moans, skin bubbling like boiled milk. A child peeks through a crack in the shutters, eyes wide, but no one pulls him back. Everyone must learn what fire does when it enters a body. They tried prayers first, then vinegar, then leeches. Now it's smoke and salt and fear. The priest watches from the far end of the square, holding a crucifix like a blade, unsure if he's here to bless or to condemn. The fire under the bowl sputters. Midwife throws in a lock of the woman's hair, dark, curled, and soaked in sweat, and the flame hisses as if it remembers her name. The sickness is not new. It came once during the frost famine, when even the rats died in the walls. Back then, it took the blacksmith's wife, then his son, then his voice. The blacksmith still hammers iron, but he speaks only with sparks now. The woman shudders. The midwife reaches for a bone needle, carved smooth by time and oil. She will bleed the fever from the wrists, the ankles, the curve of the back, not to cure, but to release the soul, if nothing else. As she pierces the skin, blood leaks out slow and dark like molasses. The woman does not cry. She's too far beneath herself now, drifting in the deep water of pain where sound cannot reach. The sun has not risen in days. Only a pewter light, thin and sharp as a blade, creeps over the rooftops. A crow lands on the chimney and watches the square in silence. No one shoos it away. Later, they will burn the linens, boil the stone floor with lye, and scratch crosses. Into the beams, the priest will call for fasting. The villagers will sleep with garlic under their pillows. But tonight, the midwife will dream of a body made of smoke. Walking out into the woods, skin glowing like coal, vanishing between the trees without leaving tracks, there is no cure. Only the slow forgetting of each face the fire takes. From the distance, a single church bell rings, not a toll of death, but of warning. A traveler has arrived. A foreigner wearing silk gloves and a heavy black cloak. He carries books bound in flesh and a vial of powder no one can name. They say he studied in Toledo, where the stars are red like scripture and blood is weighed by the moon. The midwife sees him. She knows what he brings. Not salvation, but curiosity. Not hope, but experiment. The wind shifts. The smoke that clung. 2, the air is gone. The woman on the table is still. And in the silence that follows, the village holds its breath, not out of reverence, but fear that the fire beneath the skin has learned how to whisper. The cellar is cold, stone-walled, and sealed with a door no priest dares open. But here, beneath the cloistered abbey, the scholar lights his lantern with a trembling hand. The flame catches dim and yellow, flickering against shelves of forbidden texts, wrapped in oilskin, bound with hair, and inked in languages that died with empires. Behind him, the iron bolt groans shut. What he's about to do is not medicine. It's not science. It's not even faith. It's heresy, and it smells of lye, wax, rotting flesh. The corpse lies on the table like an accusation. It was stolen, not buried. A nameless thief left it by the well before dawn, folded in canvas like meat from the market. The chest is caved inward, ribs sharp as crow feathers, hands curled into claws, but the scholar does not flinch. He's seen worse in the war, boys torn by ballistae, eyes still blinking. What he fears now isn't death, but truth. He unwraps his tools, a silver scalpel, copper hook, a pair of tongs blackened with age. With a whisper of apology, he begins the cut. The blade hisses through cold skin, revealing meat, then sinew, then the pale shimmer of bone. He murmurs the names of saints with each incision, not to protect, but to delay damnation. Every layer is a scripture. Every tendon a secret. The heart is small, gray, and motionless, like a shriveled plum. He weighs it in his palm. Too light, too empty. What then carries the soul? He carves deeper. From above faintly, the monks are singing matins. Voices echo through the stone like ghosts. He works faster. The lungs are blistered, black with soot. The man must have been a smith or a chimney sweep. The liver is swollen. The stomach holds traces of hemlock and ash, murdered, punished, or simply unlucky. He sketches as he goes, ink smudged with blood, pages crinkled by breath, each diagram more blasphemous than the last. Not for the church, not even for posterity. For truth, then a sound. Not from above. From the corpse. A wheeze, a twitch. A bubble of air rising from the throat like a cough. The scholar stumbles back, knocking over the lantern. Darkness slams the room. Smoke coils like fingers. Fumbles for flint, whispering prayers and curses. Light returns in a sputter, and the corpse is still no breath. No motion. Just a trick of rot and nerves. But the fear lingers. It has changed him. He seals the body in salt, wraps it in linen, and buries it beneath the flagstones, with no cross, no name, no memory. His notes he burns. But he cannot unsee the truth. The organs do not lie. The soul is not here. It never was. Later. When the bishop visits and asks about the stench, the scholar simply says, mold. And the bishop nods, for mold is safer than mystery. But the scholar cannot sleep now. In his dreams, the corpse rises, not to accuse, but to ask. Did you find it? And he does not know what to say. Because in that silence, beneath the scalpel, he learned the most terrifying thing of all, that a man may be hollow, and still scream when cut. In the far corner of the monastery garden, past the hawthorn hedge, past the well where no one draws water, there stands a wooden gate nailed, shut with iron crosses. Behind it, the leper house, a place where the air is thick with rosemary to mask the rot. A place where names are not spoken, only whispered. A place where kings go to vanish. He was once crowned with gold and glory. Now he wears a cowl to hide the face time has devoured. The leper king. Once he led armies, now he limps through rows of dying men, his staff tapping like a death watch beetle. His fingers are eaten down to bone, wrapped in wool soaked with wine. Where skin once bloomed, there are only blackened patches of silence. His voice is a rasp, but his eyes still. Sharp, still burning, carry the weight of prophecy. The brothers fear him, not for his touch, but for his gaze. He remembers everything, the politics, the betrayals, the bloodshed in Jerusalem, where holy water ran red. Remembers when he was kissed by popes and cursed by poets. But now he is touched only by flies. And still he serves. He tends the dying with reverence, as if each lesion were a relic. He washes the wounds others turn from, packs sores with ash and honey. When a boy loses his nose, he carves him a wooden one and straps it on with string, whispering, "You are still God's child." When a mother arrives carrying her son, wrapped in linen, he does not ask how, only where to lay him. He sings when no one else will. Psalms for the putrid. Lullabies for the blind. And at night, alone in his cell, he writes, not royal decrees, but prayers. Not to be healed, only to be remembered. Once a week, a friar leaves bread and salt by the door. He never sees the face. That brings it. But one morning, the salt is missing, replaced with a coin. A mark of death. The friar is dead.
Oh.
The next will not come, the king understands. It is time. He dresses in his finest rags, wraps his ruined face in silk, walks to the gate, and without knocking, opens it. On the other side, only wind and bird song. He walks into the woods, where no trail follows. Past the burned-out chapels, past the wolf bones, till even the birds fall silent. Days later, the monks find his staff leaning against the gate. Nothing else. But they say that when the wind turns and the bells toll late, you can hear him whispering in the garden, not in pain, not in madness, in memory, because even the forgotten remember, and even the rotted still hope. In a crooked alley behind St. Aldhelm's Chapel, where the stones sweat and the rats move like rumors, there stands a shop with no name. Its door is warped pine, carved with alchemical sigils half scrubbed away by rain. No signs, no welcome. But when plague creeps over the hills like black fog, the desperate always find it. Inside, the air is heavy with wormwood, myrrh, and secrets. Bundles of dried sage hang from the rafters, and every jar has a label written in a dead language: foxglove, hemlock, powdered mummy from Alexandria, or so it's sold. In this place, truth is just another tincture, something you distill, dilute, or hide. The apothecary is old, older than his hands should allow. His eyes are milk-glazed but sharp as glass. He does not speak unless silver is shown, and even then he weighs the coin against the illness. Not all lives are worth the same dosage. Today he prepares his final vial, not for a noble, not for a bishop. For a child, a cobbler's boy, no more than 10, whose mother died coughing in his arms 3 nights past. The boy came alone, clutching a broken rosary and a fever that sings in Latin. The apothecary does not ask his name. He only lights a taper, pours a measure of monkshood into a mortar, and begins to grind. His hands shake, but not from age, from knowing what this cure demands. He adds poppy sap, dried spider heart, 3 drops of his own blood. The mixture hisses. It knows what it is. He speaks no prayer, only the formula recited like scripture. The boy watches, wide and swaying. His skin is hot wax, his breath shallow tides. The apothecary places the vial in his palm. 3 sips, he rasps, no more. But the boy, already delirious, drinks the whole thing. For a moment, silence. Then his body arches, limbs, thrashing as if angels were dragging him between worlds. Foam spills from his lips. The apothecary does not move. He has seen kings die with less violence. But then breath, stillness, color. The boy opens his eyes. The fever is gone, and so is the apothecary. Gone from the chair, gone from the room. Only his blood-stained apron remains hanging on the door. No note, inked in trembling script. My final remedy. Give it to none but the forgotten. Burn this. Shop when the next shadow comes. The boy reads it with shaking hands. He does not run. He does not cry. He lights the fire himself. Watches as flame licks the shelves, consumes the secrets, and spits them into the night sky. And when the monks come to bury the dead, they find only ash and a small unbroken vial glowing in the soot, unlabeled, unclaimed. Waiting. The monastery. Walls thick with ivy and centuries of unspoken guilt, hum with mourning chants. Rows of monks, draped in rough wool robes, bow low in candlelight, their voices a low drone, not of joy, but of penance. The psalter lies open at the altar, its vellum pages still stained with a martyr's blood, pressed thin and sacred by trembling hands long turned to dust. Brother Alaric does not sing. He kneels apart, his head bowed but his lips unmoving. His silence is not defiance, it is memory. Last winter, before the snow fell and the fever took Abbot Elias, Alaric had uncovered something buried behind the crypt wall, a scroll sealed in wax, hidden for 400 years. It told of a ritual, not one of healing, but of preservation. A way to bind the soul of a holy man to relic and page, so his wisdom would never die. Abbot Elias, already wasting away from the pestilence, had begged for it. I do not fear death, he whispered. I fear being forgotten. And so, in the dark beneath the psalter, beneath the altar, where no light dared reach, Brother Alaric had performed the rite 7 drops of the abbot's blood, 7 prayers unspoken aloud, the psalter bound in iron thread and bone dust. And when it was done, the crypt stank of roses and decay. The abbot died before sunrise, peacefully, too peacefully now. When Brother Alaric walks past the altar, the psalter hums. It does not sing. It hums low and hungry. At night, the other monks hear it too. A soft voice speaking in Latin, though the lips of no man move. The psalter opens itself now, pages turning without wind. Illuminated saints weep ink, margins bleed red, and one by one the monks begin to dream of the abbot, not as he was, but as something else, eyes black, his mouth smiling wide enough to tear. "Remember me," the voice says. Brother Alaric no longer sleeps. He tends the psalter as one might a sick child. He chants louder during morning prayers, hoping his voice might drown out the whisper. But deep beneath the abbey, the place where the ritual was performed, the stone is cracking. Hairline fissures stretch like veins across the floor. Something beneath it stirs not in anger, but in anticipation. And every morning, as the candles burn lower, the psalter turns one more page. Alone, the monks begin to forget their prayers, forget their names, but the psalter remembers, and soon it will speak. It began with a single drop, red as rust, thick as oil. It slid down the face of the Virgin Mary carved above the cathedral's high altar, not sculpted stone. It's not faded paint, but fresh, warm blood. The pilgrims gasped. One fainted. A boy ran to fetch Father Renaud, who had not left. The bell tower in 3 days. The old priest descended slowly, robes dragging like chains. His eyes were sunken, his hands shaking. But when he saw the blood, more now, trailing from Mary's weeping eyes down to the floor like tears of meat, he did not cross himself. He only whispered, "It's begun. It's by nightfall. The whole cathedral trembled. The saints in the stained glass no longer gazed heavenward. Their eyes stared downward, into the nave, as if witnessing something unspeakable. The smell of incense had soured, cloying, rotten, like lilies left too long on a grave. And from the crypt below came a noise no one dared name, the wet thudding of something moving on, hands too wide. Too many, they say. The cathedral was built on an older ruin, that the foundation stones were once pagan altars. At the bell, the one no man had rung in 40 years, was forged from a melted idol, and that deep beneath the altar. In the catacombs sealed by Bishop Armand after the Black Year, there was something left unfinished, something that remembered at midnight. The bell rang on its own. One great peal, then another, then 12 more. Though no rope was pulled, the choir boys awoke screaming, their mouths filled with ash. The bishop's tomb cracked down the middle. His skeletal hand burst free, not reaching out, but pointing to the altar, to the blood, to the door. It was Father Renaud who barred it shut, though the hinges cried like grieving mothers. "We cannot let it out," he told the sacristan, "and we cannot let it in." No one slept, the walls bled, the crucifix turned, and then the whispers began, not from ghosts, from the icons, from painted mouths that never moved. The prayers they spoke were wrong, twisted versions of familiar verses spoken backward in a voice like stone on stone. And always, always the same final line: "He was buried in flesh, but rose in silence." By dawn, the pews were empty. No one would enter the church, but those who passed outside swore they saw a figure pacing in the belfry. Not Father Renaud, not a monk, not anything with a face. And the bell kept ringing softly, like a heartbeat in iron, they say. The church is still locked. They say if you press your ear to the old wood, you'll hear the choir, still singing, still bleeding.